Welcome back to Rewitched, a charmed 1998 rewatch journey. I'm your host, Jess Sabanko, and I can't wait to share my thoughts on one of my favorite shows with you. Though episodes are now shorter, I will still be keeping them spoiler-free and welcome fans new and old to join me on my journey here and on social media at Rewitched_pod on Instagram and TikTok. Currently, I'm on season 5. So this week we're talking about season 5, episode 9, Sam I Am, also known as Daddy Dearest. This week our innocent of the week is a familiar face, Samuel, aka Paige's birth father. We also have multiple antagonists. We have Ronan, the darklighter, who's after Sam. We have Cole, who's in a little bit of a bad place in this episode and putting himself up against the charmed ones. And then we are introduced to two new characters who seem like they may be important. They are part of a group called the Avatars, who are the avatars of force and power. And they're there to kind of get Cole to join their little group that is looking for some type of ultimate power. They claim to exist beyond good and evil, really not interested in those ongoing fights that never seem to have a winner or loser. So in terms of the sisters in this episode, I'll first talk about Piper's side storyline since it is a little bit more subplotty. So her and Leo are looking for a magical nanny for the baby when she comes. They're conducting interviews. The one we see is with this elf who, as they're asking her questions, she has questions of her own about the dangers of the job and what it means to be working for a charmed one, whether she'll have to protect the baby. Of course, Piper's saying no, that wouldn't happen. Piper was very nervous about these interviews, had been tidying up the house, obsessed with making it perfectly clean, and then was completely lying in these answers that they're rarely ever attacked at the house. When they, of course, are in the middle of her saying this, the elf withdraws her application and proceeds to tell all her friends in the magical community not to apply for this job, which of course leave Piper and Leo in a bit of a pickle at the end of the episode. Though we do also see Piper gain something new in this episode in terms of her and the baby's powers, which I'll get to a little later. In terms of Phoebe in this episode, so we see that Phoebe is very set on the idea that Cole is evil, which is really interesting. For me, this storyline came a little quick, and I think that's because in last episode, even though that timeline was erased, we did see Phoebe gain trust for Cole. But in this episode, she's very quick to be he did this for an evil reason. We have to vanquish him. Whereas Paige and Piper are kind of is this really our priority? So Cole was at the bar. There were these two guys who came in to rob the place, shooting the place up. And Cole at first doesn't react at all. He's just focused on drinking his drink. He's all disheveled, kind of looks hot as fuck in my opinion. But in Charmed, when you have your facial hair, you are not taking care of yourself. When he gets shot, the bullet of course goes right through him. He heals, and then he uses his powers in public against these two criminals, first just throwing them against the wall and then with energy and fireballs. So Phoebe, of course, instantly realizes this is him. She's there was this tall, dark, handsome stranger who threw people with the wave of his hand, and Piper's kind of well, that doesn't mean it's Cole. And she's did I mention there were scorch marks? And she's that means it's Cole, which is one of my favorite lines of the episode. And she goes on to go see Cole after this. So when Cole had first killed those two criminals, that's when we saw the avatars appear for the first time. They're finally, we've been waiting for this moment. Then we see a conversation he's having where he's asking what they are. They tell him what's going on and that they want him to join them. They leave just as Phoebe's arriving into the apartment, and she comes to basically tell him that she knows what he did. He admits it after a few moments. At first, he's kind of why are you here? Just leave me the fuck alone. And she eventually says that it doesn't matter that they were criminals. A good person would recognize that they were still human beings. Now, at the end of the day, Cole did save people's lives by taking these two out. Do I think that it was right to kill them in cold blood the way that he did? No, but also, do I think that it was necessarily the worst thing Cole's done? Not even close. I think that it was a bit more morally gray than Phoebe's putting it out to be, but of course, being as good as she is, she can't recognize that or really give Cole any benefit of the doubt. He talks about how he can't be good, but he won't be evil. And she says, well, if you kill anyone else, good or evil, I'll vanquish you. He's like, do you really think you can? And she says, just try me. And that kind of sparks an idea on him that he should. Cole, I think, is really struggling more so with the fact that he can never be anything more than what he was. He can't be good. He doesn't want to be evil again. And then he doesn't have Phoebe anymore. And he puts so much of his life into being about her that without her, he feels like he has nothing. Then he tried to be good, right? And he couldn't be successful at that. So I get this emptiness, this sadness, this desire not to live anymore that Cole starts feeling in this episode. I think it's really interesting for his character. And I actually think the show does a pretty good job at portraying him and the plan he comes up with here. Because maybe it's because I've seen it before, but I knew where he was going right from the moment he starts interacting with that warlock, right? In terms of Paige's storyline in this episode, we see at the beginning that she's on a date with this guy, and apparently this is the third guy in a row where she's broken up with him very quickly. It seems like he's pretty interested in her. He's asking her to go away for the weekend, and she's like, oh, this isn't gonna work out. And we see Piper and Phoebe watching this from across P3, and they're kind of like, oh my God, like what's going on with her? And Phoebe's more judgmental than Piper is. Piper's kind of like, whatever. She's doing her thing, and she has to take care of the interviews, so she's more focused on that anyway. Then later in the episode, we do see that Paige kind of learns from this after her connection with Sam. So the next morning when they're in the kitchen, Leo arrives as Paige and Piper are talking about the interview, and says that Paige has gotten her first assignment as a white lighter. She's gonna have her first charge, and Paige is so fucking excited about this, and it is so cute. She's like going on this little like ramble about how maybe like her charge is gonna be like a witch who's new to the craft and she can relate to her, or like maybe it's like this philanthropist. Like she's very excited. And Leo says, well, the only thing I can tell you is that his name is Samuel and he's a lost soul. Piper's like, why is that all you can tell her? Like, she's instantly suspicious of this. She is suspicious of the elders and their little plans, which she's right to be, because the reason that Paige has gotten this charge is because Samuel has fallen off their radar because he stopped using his powers, and now the only way they think they can find him is through a blood relative, which is obviously Paige. So instead of asking her, they want to trick her into finding her father, which is amazing. Good job, elders. So Leo goes with her, and eventually they do find him in this alley where he's being thrown out of a bar. He also has facial hair, so we know he's going through it, and he looks very, very dirty as well. But I instantly recognized him as Sam from P3H2O. Leo's kind of like, all right, well, like, I'm gonna get out of here. You don't need a cover story, whatever. So Paige gets him home and is like, oh, like, how can I help you? And he's like, I don't want any help. I just want to be left alone. She gives him her number, and he's like, I can't believe the elders sent a newbie after me. You should really work on your cover story. And she's like, wait, like, He's like, yeah, they've been trying to find me for a while. They kind of have this back and forth of kind of like arguing. She's like, I can't believe they make my first charge, this angry drunk. And he likes her, right? He's instantly drawn to the way she's so like spunky and fun, but still wants her to get the fuck out because he does not want any help. He wants nothing to do with the elders. Just as he's telling her to leave, this darklighter shows up, Ronan, and shoots him with an arrow. Paige orbs them both to the manor, which is of course when Phoebe is able to remove the arrow because she's the only one without white lighter blood. Then we see that Leo heals him, and Phoebe and Piper recognize him. They get Paige to go look at the book because they think there's something different about this darklighter who Piper's arm had blown off. As all this was happening, we saw that Cole was in the next room kind of like listening in, and finds out that this is Paige's father as they're all talking about it. Phoebe and Piper question him. They're like, last time we saw you, you were riding off into the sunset with our mom. Like, what happened? He says that the elders made him a white lighter again. He screwed up again, and he kind of just wants to get out of there. He orbs out, convinces them that like this isn't gonna happen. Paige comes back down. She's kind of like, you guys let him leave. They're like, oh, like he orbed, we couldn't stop him. Leo gives all the information about how this darklighter is a tracker, and Paige is like, well, if you knew all that, why did I have to go get the book? And Piper's like, sorry, like I didn't know all that, like trying to cover it up. So they make the plan that Piper and Leo will go talk to Sam, and that Paige and Phoebe should start working on a potion to use against the tracker. As they're doing all this, Cole goes to see Ronan and makes a plan with him that they should work together to defeat the Charmed Ones and then to get the white lighter, Sam. He's talking about how Paige is his daughter, and once he kills Paige, Sam will have nothing to live for anyway. So Ronan does agree to this because Cole heals his arm and gives him more powers. Leo and Piper are talking to Sam. Piper is talking about how the elders probably brought him and Paige together for a reason, and it wasn't so that she could watch him die, because he starts saying maybe it's his destiny to be killed by the darklighter, and he can't believe that she's standing up for the elders when they think things like how her and Leo shouldn't have been married. And he brings up how like she'll get to hold their daughter in her arms, and he never got that with Paige because they were forced to give her up, and how he never wanted to see her become a Charmed One. He wanted her to live a safe, normal life. And we get this hint even later when he's talking to Paige that that was really his goal. And I think that part of what broke him and got him to this sad place he's in is seeing that his daughter became a Charmed One, until he has those conversations later that convince him that that's what was right for her. In terms of Phoebe and Paige, as they're working on the potion, Paige is trying to figure out what everyone is keeping a secret from her. After a few minutes of trying really hard, we know that Phoebe's not good at keeping secrets. She does end up telling Paige the truth. That's when Samuel appears in the doorway. They go into the other room to talk, and he's kind of like goading her about how he was a bad dad, and like she's probably held like these negative feelings towards him, and she's kind of like, you're a stranger to me, like why would I hate you? And they're going back and forth for a bit. As they're doing this, Piper and Leo arrive in the kitchen, and Phoebe's like, oh, good job, like you got Sam to come talk to Paige. And they're like, no, he wouldn't come. So they go in there, he morphs himself back into Cole, Ronan appears, and then shoots 3 arrows. One hits Leo, one hits Paige, one is supposed to hit Piper, but we see this little force field appear in front of her belly, so the baby protects her and herself. That's really amazing. We find out that Piper is now indestructible, which she even brings up at the end of the episode, but Phoebe of course points out that that's only temporary until the baby comes. But anyway, back into this scene. So Cole and Ronan leave, and Ronan immediately decides to go after Sam, who's just passed out in an alley. Cole arrives just before he's about to shoot him and stops him, and basically he's like, oh, you were never gonna let me do this, were you? And he's like, no, like I need this for my plan. I need the Charmed Ones to come after me. So he vanquishes Ronan. Then as Piper's arriving in the alley, he goes and hides and watches as she talks to Sam and is like, Paige is gonna die, like you have to come with me. And they orb back to the manor where Phoebe is taking care of Leo and Paige, which it's really funny the way it's set up because Paige is laying on a couch in the conservatory and Leo's just laying on the floor dying. But anyway, so Sam is struggling. He's not able to heal her at first as he tries. He starts talking about how bad he feels in this moment and how he lost his powers because he lost faith in himself, is kind of the hint we get that we've seen happen before in this show with Leo and Saving Private Leo. So Piper brings up how Paige saved this family, how she wouldn't be here without her. It's this really beautiful speech about the love and connection she feels with Paige. As the two of them are talking, he starts apologizing for not being able to do it, and Paige says that it's all right. And that's when we see this little like white orbs appear in his chest, like then go up to his face. And then he regains his ability to heal her. He does. She thanks him. They have this cute little moment. Then he goes over, heals Leo. Leo's like, Piper, like, are you okay? Is the baby okay? And she's like, we don't have to worry about the baby. We'll talk about that later, because the sisters know that it's time to go deal with Cole. Early on, Piper was suspicious of Cole's plan. She's like, Cole, you know, whether he's good or evil, he's always smart. And what he was doing there wasn't smart. They knew exactly what was going on the entire time. Paige comes up with a set of 3 potions that they throw consecutively, and they realize, practicing on the letter opener from the first episode of the season, that it's going to work. Just before they get there, he's writing a letter to Phoebe. He leaves it against a picture of the two of them. The avatars arrive back to them. They're like, if this doesn't work, you'll want to join us. Like, it'll be all you have left. And he's like, it's going to work, whatever. Like, I'm never going to join you. So they leave. The sisters arrive. They start yelling at him, going back and forth a bit. And Phoebe quickly realizes what Cole is doing and that he wanted this to happen. But Paige and Piper both throw their potions, and Phoebe's like, we won't do this. We won't help you commit suicide, which I think is a little bit strange, because if you're so worried that Cole is evil, why does it matter that he wants to die? As opposed to like, why wouldn't you just do it for the greater good? Maybe it has something to do with like a morality issue, because the show has talked about suicide previously. But also, if you are thinking that Cole can never be good, why wouldn't you just take him out regardless of whether or not it's what he wants? But Cole takes the potion and hits himself with it, ready to end his life. We see that everything in the room blows up. The sisters get knocked to the ground. They get up, but Cole is still standing there perfectly fine, even after setting on fire the whole thing. So Cole is completely indestructible, and that's scary. Back at the house the next morning, we see Paige and Sam having a talk about how she's proud to be a witch, she loves what she's doing, and she wouldn't change anything. And it seems like something there is going to continue for the two of them. She also talks about not casting guys aside before she has a chance to get to know them, and that she's going to work on her abandonment issues, which is kind of a throwaway line, but I also think key to her character, so I wish the show had given that a little bit more space. In terms of the other sisters, we see that Phoebe is really focused on being worried about what's going to happen next with Cole, and we do get this final scene of him on the balcony that tells us that something big is probably coming soon. I'm really excited to see where things go for everybody. I feel like this is a really good setup episode that's hopefully leading us into some really great storylines with the avatars, with Cole, and this continuing journey of his mental health struggle, with Paige and her relationships, and then with Piper and Leo, again, taking further steps into becoming parents and her powers growing, and with Phoebe wanting to vanquish Cole. Yeah, that's all I have this time. So I hope you'll join me back next week.